Guys, I've been scammed and ripped off by a huge musician company. Um, I can't quite believe what's happened because I think I was on. So basically, a few years ago, almost 8 or 9 years ago, and I realised this is way longer than it should have taken me to figure this out. But as I'm getting better in my head, I'm getting more sober, emotionally sober. I've got 8 years free of drugs and alcohol, but I was emotionally all over the place, and I'm recovering and I'm getting myself back. I'm coming back to real life, and I'm enjoying being present, and I'm feeling powerful and like I can achieve anything, even though my external situation is still pretty rubbish. Like I'm not living with the family. That's all, nothing's changed, but inside I'm starting to feel better, and I'm starting to want to take control of my life. And that goes back to the feeling sort of powerful and like I'm going to take control. I'm going to make things happen. I'm feeling very positive and industrious and passionate, and just I love making these videos. I love making music, and I'm loving it. I'm so in the center of it. It's gorgeous. I'm loving my creative life right now. But part of that is getting my affairs in order from before, and myself and Laura, we've split our companies, so I'm starting a brand new thing from scratch. Brand new thing from scratch. I'm starting again. 47, starting again. But I'm really excited because I think the stuff I'm doing is really good. I'm really enjoying it. The music is sounding really good to me, and I'm loving making these videos, and I love that you guys are getting something from what I'm doing. If you like my video, please drop a like on it. If you like what I'm doing generally, I realise that a lot of you that watch the videos aren't subscribed, and it's a massive help to me if you subscribe. So please consider just hitting that little button. It's free. It really helps my channel. Anyway, so part of this whole thing about taking my power back, starting again, is getting my previous situation in order. And I'd left that up to other people for years, like especially my previous music stuff. And that was a mistake because I should have been looking over that stuff with a fine tooth comb, like any sensible, normal musician would, I imagine. So I was going back through my royalty statements. When you write a piece of music, if it's released as a record, or if it goes on to be in a commercial or a TV show or a movie, if you've written a piece yourself and then you license it, you allow for it to be used on those things, you get royalties. So when I was deep in my drug addiction 8 years ago, I was all over the place, and I admit I take ownership of the fact that I was not reliable. I was inconsistent, but I was still writing great music. Even with all that, I was still writing great music. And a company asked me to write some music for television, and I was out of my face, and I just stupidly agreed to it without reading the small print, and they offered me a studio space, which I liked, and then they charged me a fortune for it, which I'm going to get into later on. Didn't really wasn't completely upfront about that, but I really wanted the studio space, so I agreed to do some tracks for them for TV, which I've never done before. I've never done TV before. I've only done I've worked with, produced big artists like Massive Attack, Depeche Mode, done lots of big films, and I wasn't in my right mind, and I had a funny feeling about these people. It was connected to someone I worked with, and I had a funny feeling about these guys. Something didn't just seem right, but stupidly I ignored it, and I went ahead and did it. Anyway, so I'm writing music. Admittedly, I was on drugs, but I was delivering such great music to them that the people that they were pitching my music to for TV shows literally said, You are reinventing television music. We've never heard anything like this. This is amazing. You're reinventing it. There is a couple of big TV shows which I really want to talk about and tell you what they are, and I will. I want to tell you what the company is and tell you what the TV shows are. But I'm working with a new assistant, and she's cleverer than me. And she said to me today, just run it past the lawyer before you talk about this, because it could harm your case later on. So I'm trying to be sensible. I'm trying to take my control back and take my power back and approach this in the right way. Anyway, they licensed my music to big TV shows. And these people were like, you're reinventing TV music. It was amazing. And I was like on drugs, but my life was falling apart, but I was getting these emails and it was giving me some joy. I was like, oh wow, I'm still making music that they're loving. And the interesting thing is that now I realize it, and now I've looked back, the emails were coming to the company, not to me. They were forwarding them to me. But the TV companies and their big shows were writing to this weird guy who was in charge of this company. I should have realized then that something was wrong. So I look back at my royalty statements from the past few years, and all the music that I did while I was working with them that they licensed to these big shows, the person credited as writing, and again, I'm going to take my assistant's advice, and I'm not going to do it on this video, but in in the next video, when I blow this up and really blow this open and tell you everything about this, I'm going to show you. The writer, so royalties get paid. I should talk about this. When your stuff gets used in certain things, you get royalties, and it's not actually a great deal of money, and this isn't about the money, this is about the principle. So that's how you make your money. They were paying so small money per track, but at the time I was thinking that's okay because I'll make the royalties on the TV show. They were paying ridiculous. The money they were paying to do the music wasn't even covering the studio rent, but I was banking on the back end, which is the royalties. So I'm looking back through my royalty statement, and admittedly, I should never have left it this long, and I should have been on top of this from day one. Anyway, the writer of the music, which I wrote 100% myself, you guys know, I write, I produce, I do everything myself, all my music. I don't work with anyone else. It's not great for an autistic person to work with other musicians. I do it all on my own. Looking at the royalty statement, and there's 3 names on every single track that I did that they licensed to these TV shows. Me and 2 made-up people. Now, black artists in the 40s and 50s, the blues artists that eventually the white record industry took their music and morphed it into rock and roll, as we know now, with Elvis Presley. So Chuck Berry and Howlin' Wolf and people like that were doing that kind of music, but the industry in the 40s and 50s, which was white, wanted to market that music to white people. So they took these people's music and they wanted to steal it, to give it to the white artists. How do you think they did it? They put themselves down as co-writers on this music that they didn't write. It was a huge scandal. And when I went to Sun Studios, and when I went to Memphis once, and it was like, you wouldn't believe what they did in the 50s. These guys used to write their own names on the writing credit. And I was like, oh my God, that's horrendous. That's crazy. They did it to me. And they did it to me, I think, because they knew I was on drugs. And I shouldn't have been on drugs, so maybe I deserve this. But they took advantage of me, knowing that I was out of it, but still delivering amazing music that they were selling. And I don't want to know how much they sold these tracks to these TV shows for, because I can guarantee you it was tens and tens more than they were paying me. Hundreds more, probably. I mean, 1 or 2 zeros on the end, at least. So on top of taking the lion's share of the money for licensing my music, and I was so out of it, I didn't know what was going on. In fact, at the end of this period, I ended up in rehab. But I was seeing the reaction from these companies saying, you're redefining TV music. We've never seen anything like this. So these guys were telling them that they wrote this music. and they were putting their names on my music. So my music has 3 writers. So this royalties are split 3 ways. So basically, the guy that runs this company was making himself into 2 people to get 2/3 of my royalties for a long time, like maybe 18 months, 2 years, and a lot of music. And I don't know what I can do. I mean, I'm just worried about statute of limitations. Can I don't know legally what to do, really. And I don't have, we were working with a lawyer before. He's very expensive, and I'm starting again from scratch. I'm literally starting my company again. So I don't have a big budget for lawyers, but this is so unscrupulous and so scammy, and it's literally like they used to do to like these artists, these poor, like mostly black artists in the 40s and 50s. This is exactly what they pulled with them, and they're doing it. And this company is massive. Like, when you find, if I can figure this out, I'm going to blow the lid off this, and you won't believe who this is. You couldn't really get much bigger in the TV industry, which they work in. You can't really get any bigger. So yeah, they were falsely claiming that they wrote the music that I wrote and putting themselves down as co-writers when I did it all myself. And it's made me so angry, and I wanted to follow up because yesterday's video, I was furious about this, and I didn't want to not make a video today, even though, just explaining a backstory, even though my new assistant was like, don't talk specifically because you could harm a later thing. So I'm trying to be sensible, but I'm very, very annoyed, and I feel very betrayed. Some of that music was really good. Like, I want to listen to it again now. I was looking at all the titles that I gave it, and they were titles that were given to. They were the titles of someone very high on drugs, but they were even using my titles. And I was like, oh, that's a really good track. And I listened to one of them, and I was really proud of it. It was really good. And I remember really working on these pieces, because I've told you before, I can't just phone something in. I really put my everything into every piece of music I do. And that's why it's hard for me sometimes to release a track every week on Patreon. But I'll do it because I said I would. But yeah, I feel betrayed, and I feel like these guys really took advantage, and I really want to talk about it, and I really want to say who it is, and I really want to show you I'll even show you the statements with the fake names on, because the names are so obviously fake, you won't believe that. So in the video coming up, I'm going to blow the lid off this, tell you who it is, show you what they did, show you the names they put on my music, and there you go. I'm still so annoyed, especially after talking about it. I love you guys. Sorry if this was a negative one, but I mentioned it in the last video, so I didn't want to leave you hanging. That's why I was so upset. I just literally found out about this. Funny thing, how I found out about it was one of my neighbors spoke to me about this company. He's also a musician, and he was like, have you heard of this people? And I was like, yeah, I used to work with them when I was on drugs. I didn't like him. I remember I said to him, I didn't like the guys. They were shifty. And then I looked, and my instinct was right. Just goes to show you should always go on your instinct. Even though I was high, I didn't like these people. Even though I was high, I was like, there's something wrong with these guys. There's something. They're too flash. Their whole office looks like a cocaine trip. Just horrible. So, yeah, I'm going to try and resolve this somehow. If any music lawyers out there that want to hit me up, that have experience with dealing with big, powerful companies, man, it upsets me to think the people that are still working there, because they still employ a lot of people. And from what my neighbor was saying, they're pulling the same shit. I'm sure they don't put their names on all these guys' music, though. Anyway, tomorrow is tomorrow will either be, it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month this month, And I don't, it's not, it feels weird with the climate now, you know, you're not supposed to be sexist or whatever, but men do have an issue talking about how they feel. And I want to talk about what happened to me and what I learnt and what was the biggest mistake that I made that I'll never make again. So my video tomorrow will either be that, or if I'm still angry tonight, it's going to be a meditation, because I'm going to take my friend's advice and do another chanty video because I need to calm down. But I love you guys. Thank you for watching me every day. It means the world to me. If you want to support my music, Patreon, as I just said, I'm killing myself with Patreon, but it's a great distraction and I love writing music, so it's good. Patreon.com/Stephen Hilton. If you want to support my music, if you want to support my music that has been stolen by people, like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you like me. I love you guys. Let's speak tomorrow about something else.